The arrogance of ages, the Galactic Concordat had existed for 12 million years. In that time, they had uplifted species, ended wars, and maintained peace across 17,000 inhabited worlds. They had never encountered a problem they couldn't solve through diplomacy, economic pressure, or, when absolutely necessary, overwhelming military force. Earth was about to become problem number 3. High Arbiter Zorvax stood before the viewing port of the Eternal Judgment, the Concordat's largest vessel, watching the small blue planet rotate peacefully below. His 6 eyes narrowed in what his species considered deep thought. Behind him, representatives from the Concordat's founding races waited in silence. The reptilian Eschatar, the energy-based Luminae, the hive-minded collective, and 3 others whose forms defied easy description. "They are children playing with fire," Zorvax said, his voice resonating through translation devices. "Their fastest ships barely reach light speed. Their weapons are crude fusion devices. Their civilization has existed for mere thousands of years." He turned to face the assembly. "And yet they refuse our guidance." A Luminae representative flickered with what might have been amusement. "They called our terms unacceptable colonial oppression. They used the word tyranny." "They don't understand," Eschatar General hissed, her scales darkening with irritation. "We offer them protection, technology, a place in galactic society. Instead, they choose defiance." Zorvax returned his gaze to Earth. The Concordat fleet surrounding the planet numbered 3,000 warships, each one capable of glassing a continent. It was by any objective measure absurd overkill. But the Concordat had learned long ago that overwhelming displays of force prevented unnecessary bloodshed. Young species needed to understand their place in the cosmic order. "Send the final warning," Zorvax commanded. 72 hours to surrender their military capabilities and accept Concordat oversight. "If they refuse," he paused, mandibles clicking softly, "we will dismantle their orbital infrastructure and occupy their major population centers. Minimal casualties, standard procedure." The transmission was sent, and then they waited. In Geneva, the United Earth Assembly met in emergency session. Every nation's representative was present, either physically or via hologram. The chamber, built only 3 years ago when humanity had confirmed they weren't alone in the universe, had never seen such tension. Director James Morrison of the Consolidated Defense Initiative stood at the podium, his face drawn but steady. Behind him, a holographic display showed the alien fleet in terrifying detail. Thousands of ships, some larger than cities, all bristling with weapons humanity could barely comprehend. "They've given us 72 hours, Morrison said simply. "Surrender or be conquered," the chamber erupted. Accusations flew. Some blamed CDI for not preparing better defenses. Others blamed the diplomatic corps for failed negotiations. Still others blamed humanity's very nature for attracting this disaster. Morrison waited for the chaos to subside, then spoke again. "There is one option. Project Silent Protocol." The chamber fell instantly quiet. Most of the representatives had heard rumors, whispers of a secret program, something developed in the early days after first contact. But details had been locked behind the highest security clearances. Ambassador Wei Lin of the Pacific Coalition stood slowly. "Director Morrison, I've heard the name. Nothing more. What is the Silent Protocol?" Morrison glanced at General Sarah Okonkwo, head of special projects, who stepped forward with a data tablet. Her hands trembled slightly as she unlocked the classified file. 15 years ago, Okonkwo began. "When we first detected the Concordat's existence, our best scientists made several calculations. The first was how long before they found us. The second was whether we could defend ourselves conventionally. The third," she paused, "the third was what we would need to become if we wanted to survive." She activated the hologram. Instead of weapons or ships, it showed something else, a network. Billions of nodes spreading across Earth, the Moon, Mars, the asteroid belt, and beyond. But strangest of all, the network seemed to extend into dimensions the human eye couldn't quite process, folding in on itself in impossible ways. "The Silent Protocol isn't a weapon," Okonkwo continued. "It's an evolution. For 15 years in secret, we've been preparing humanity for a transformation. Every person born in the last decade carries dormant modifications in their DNA. Every major city has underground resonance chambers. Every satellite we've launched has been part of the network. Modifications? Someone gasped. You've been experimenting on our children? We've been preparing them, Morrison interjected firmly. Preparing all of us. Because if the Concordat or any other galactic power ever found us, we would need to be more than we were, more than they expected, more than they could comprehend. Ambassador Wei Lin's expression had gone pale. What happens if we activate this protocol? Okonkwo and Morrison exchanged glances. We don't know exactly, Okonkwo admitted. The simulations suggest a phase transition. Humanity would change fundamentally. Our consciousness, our capabilities, perhaps our very existence would shift to something new. And the alien fleet would become irrelevant. The chamber exploded again, but Morrison raised his voice above the din. We have 72 hours to decide. Surrender and become subjects of an alien empire, hoping they treat us well. Fight conventionally and be destroyed within hours, or... He looked at each representative in turn. We activate the protocol and discover what humanity is truly capable of becoming. The vote was held in secret. The margin was narrow, 53% in favor, but it was enough. Aboard the Eternal Judgment, sensor technicians began noticing anomalies. Energy readings from Earth were fluctuating in strange patterns. Radio emissions had gone mysteriously silent. No broadcasts, no communications, nothing. The planet's electromagnetic signature was changing, becoming something their instruments struggled to classify. High Arbiter, one technician called out, we're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations emanating from multiple points on the planet's surface. The pattern is coordinated, deliberate. Zorvax approached the display, his curiosity piqued. A weapon? Unknown. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our databases. It's almost like... The technician paused, manipulating the controls, like they're building a field of some kind. Not electromagnetic, not gravitational. Something else. A Lumini representative drifted closer, their energy form pulsing with interest. Perhaps they're attempting some desperate final gesture. Symbolic resistance before the inevitable. Zorvax was less certain. In his 4 centuries of service, he had witnessed the end of many defiant civilizations. There was usually panic in the final hours. Desperate military mobilizations, evacuation attempts, last-minute negotiations. But Earth was quiet. Too quiet. How long until the deadline? He asked. 47 hours, High Arbiter. Increase sensor coverage. I want to know what they're doing down there. But the sensors told them nothing useful. The quantum fluctuations were intensifying, yes, but they weren't behaving like any known technology. It was as if Earth itself was becoming something else. The boundaries between the planet, its inhabitants, and the surrounding space beginning to blur in ways that defied physical law. In the Concordat fleet, a few of the older, more intuitive commanders began to feel something they hadn't experienced in millennia: uncertainty. Some even whispered a word they thought they'd forgotten: fear. But they were the Galactic Concordat. They had toppled empires. They had reshaped worlds. Surely these primitive humans, with their chemical rockets and crude weapons, posed no real threat. Surely. On Earth, in thousands of locations simultaneously, the silent protocol reached critical mass. Every modified human, billions of them, felt something awaken in their minds. A connection, a potential, a doorway opening to something vast. When gods realized their error, the final hours passed in eerie silence. Aboard the Eternal Judgment, High Arbiter Zorvax watched the countdown with growing unease. Earth had gone completely dark. No transmissions, no visible military movements, no panic. The quantum fluctuations had reached a fever pitch, creating interference patterns that made sensor readings nearly useless. It was as if the entire planet was holding its breath. 20 minutes to deadline, announced the tactical officer, a insectoid creche whose compound eyes reflected the glow of 1,000 displays. Fleet commanders are requesting permission to begin atmospheric bombardment protocols. Zorvax hesitated, and that hesitation troubled him deeply. He had overseen 43 planetary integrations in his career. Not once had he second-guessed the process. Yet something about Earth's silence felt wrong, not like surrender, but like anticipation. High Arbiter, the Lumini representative's voice chimed like distant bells. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The energy readings are unlike anything in our historical records. What if these humans have discovered something genuinely new? Zorvax interrupted, his tone sharp. In 12 million years, the Concordat has encountered every form of technology, every type of defense. There is nothing new under the stars. But even as he spoke the words, he didn't quite believe them. A Essex general slithered forward, scales gleaming with aggressive patterns. We overthink this. They are primitives. Whatever they're attempting is desperation, nothing more. I recommend we advance the timetable and begin pacification immediately. Zorvax considered this. Every tactical assessment agreed. Even if Earth possessed some hidden weapon, the Concordat fleet could absorb enormous damage and still maintain operational superiority. They had redundancy upon redundancy, shields that could withstand star-level energies, weapons that could crack planets. What could these young humans possibly do? Very well, Zorvax said finally. All ships advance to inner system positions. Prepare to... The universe screamed. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood in the central resonance chamber beneath Mount Fuji, her mind expanding in ways she had theorized but never truly understood. Around her, 300 scientists and technicians experienced the same phenomenon, their consciousness fragmenting and multiplying, becoming something simultaneously individual and collective. The silent protocol was activating, and humanity was changing. Neural integration at 78%, someone said, though Tanaka couldn't tell if the voice was external or internal anymore. Quantum coherence achieved across all nodes. The field is stabilizing. Tanaka could feel it. 8 billion human minds beginning to synchronize not into a hive mind, but into something more sophisticated. A network where individuality remained but isolation ended. Every human on Earth, on Mars, in the orbital stations and asteroid mines, suddenly connected through quantum entanglement that transcended space itself. And through that connection flowed something extraordinary. The combined intellectual and creative capacity of the entire species, focused and amplified through the resonance network. In seconds, humanity's collective intelligence exceeded anything the Concordat had ever encountered. They're advancing, reported Commander Sarah Chen, her consciousness now simultaneously present in the Colorado command bunker and distributed across the entire defense network. The alien fleet is moving to attack positions. Then it's time. Director Morrison's voice echoed through the network, calm and certain. Activate full protocol. Show them what we've become. Tanaka initiated the final sequence. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, millions of resonance chambers hummed to life, generating a field that existed in dimensions the Concordat's sensors couldn't detect. It wasn't electromagnetic, it wasn't gravitational. It was something that touched the fundamental code of reality. Itself, the silent protocol didn't destroy, it erased the very concept of the threat from local space-time. High Arbiter Zorvax felt the shift. Before his instruments registered it, a sensation of wrongness, as if the universe had suddenly become unstable. On the main display, Earth began to glow with an impossible light. Neither electromagnetic nor particulate, but something that made his eyes ache to perceive. "What is that?" he demanded. The tactical officer's mandibles clicked in panic. "Quantum field expansion? No, that's not right. It's not expanding, it's redefining. High Arbiter, local spacetime is being rewritten." The glow from Earth intensified, spreading outward in a sphere that moved faster than light, faster than thought. As it touched each Concordat ship, something inexplicable happened. They didn't explode. They didn't collapse. They simply ceased to have ever been there. The mighty eternal judgment, fortress of the void, pride of the Concordat, vanished. Not destroyed, not transported, but retroactively edited from existence. One moment it occupied space. The next, it was as if it had never existed at all. And reality adjusted itself to accommodate the change. 3,000 warships, representing the combined might of the galaxy's oldest civilizations, disappeared in absolute silence. No wreckage, no energy signatures, just gone. In the final microsecond before his existence was erased, Zorvax understood. The humans hadn't built a weapon. They had transformed themselves into something that could rewrite the rules of reality itself. They had become a species that existed partially outside normal space-time, able to edit causality on a local scale. The Concordat had threatened children playing with fire. They never realized those children had learned to become the fire. Across the galaxy, every Concordat outpost, every listening station, Every diplomatic vessel received the same message simultaneously. It arrived not through conventional transmission, but directly into the consciousness of every being capable of receiving it, planted there by a species that could now touch minds across light years. The message was simple, delivered in every language through every sensory modality. We are humanity. You came to our home with threats and ultimatums. You believed yourselves superior because you were older, because you had conquered before. You forgot that age does not guarantee wisdom and conquest does not equal strength. Your fleet is gone, not destroyed, simply removed from the equation. We could do the same to your homeworlds, your outposts, every trace of your civilizations. We could erase you so completely that no one would remember you ever existed. But we won't. We didn't evolve to become conquerors. We evolved to become something better. So hear this, Galactic Concordat, and hear it well. Earth is under our protection. Our solar system is sovereign. Any species is welcome to approach us in peace and genuine diplomacy, as equals. But if you come again with fleets and ultimatums, if you threaten our home or our people, you will discover what we just learned about ourselves, that humanity, when pushed to the edge, doesn't break. We transcend. This is your warning. Your only warning, choose wisely. On Earth, 8 billion people slowly returned to individual consciousness, though the connection never fully disappeared. They could feel each other now, a background awareness of shared humanity that would never fade. The children born with modifications could do even more. Manipulate quantum fields directly, perceive dimensions beyond the standard 4, communicate across vast distances through thought alone. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had evolved into something the galaxy had never seen. A species that existed simultaneously in normal space and in the quantum realm, able to touch and reshape reality through collective will. Dr. Tanaka stood in the resonance chamber, tears streaming down her face. Around her, scientists embraced, laughed, cried. They had gambled everything on a theory, and somehow impossibly it had worked. Director Morrison's voice came through the network, warm with relief and wonder. Status report. What's the cost? What have we lost? 3 casualties, reported a medical officer. Heart attacks from the stress of transition. Thousands more with minor neural fatigue. But the protocol held. We're stable. And the fleet? Gone. Completely, our sensors show no trace of them. It's like they were never here. In the command bunker, President Chen allowed herself a moment of pure relief before the weight of what had happened settled on her shoulders. Humanity had won, yes, but they had also revealed themselves as something terrifying. The galaxy would never see them the same way again. Open channels, she ordered. All frequencies. It's time we introduced ourselves properly. The message went out to every corner of known space, not a threat, but an invitation. Earth was open for contact, for trade, for genuine dialogue, but on humanity's terms now, as equals. In the Concordat's capital world of Primaxis, the Council of Founders convened an emergency session for the first time in 10,000 years. The loss of an entire fleet was catastrophic enough. The manner of its loss was existentially terrifying. They didn't destroy the ships, a founder observed, its ancient consciousness rippling with fear. They retroactively prevented them from being there. That level of reality manipulation? Impossible, another founder insisted, though its voice lacked conviction. No species develops such capabilities. The universe doesn't permit it. Clearly, the first founder replied dryly. The universe has made an exception for humanity. The debate raged for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. A new power had emerged in the galaxy. Young, unpredictable, and wielding capabilities that defied everything the ancient races thought they knew. Some founders advocated for immediate retaliation with the full might of the Concordat. Others, wiser or perhaps simply more fearful, counseled caution. In the end, pragmatism won. A message was sent to Earth, carefully worded, acknowledging the unfortunate misunderstanding and proposing a new framework for relations based on mutual respect and sovereignty. The age of the Concordat's absolute authority was over. The age of humanity had begun. 6 months later, Ambassador Wei Lin stood in Earth's first extrasolar embassy, watching as representatives from a dozen species arrived for the inaugural Galactic Summit. They came cautiously, respectfully, many bringing gifts and proposals for collaboration. None came with threats. It's strange, she murmured to Director Morrison, who stood beside her in formal diplomatic attire. We spent so long afraid of what was out there. Now they're afraid of us. Morrison nodded slowly. Fear can be useful, but it's not what we want long-term. We need to show them we're not monsters, just different, advanced in our own way. And if they test us again? Morrison's expression hardened slightly. Then they'll learn the same lesson the Concordat did. We don't start fights, but by God we finish them. Through the quantum network that now connected all of humanity, billions of minds touched briefly in agreement. They had been forced to evolve, forced to become something new and strange to survive. But in doing so, they had discovered something profound about their species. Humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their weapons. It was their adaptability, their refusal to accept defeat, their ability to look at an impossible situation and find a way through, over or around it, and if none of those worked, to transform themselves into something that could make the impossible possible. The galaxy had dismissed Earth's final warning, confident in their ancient power and superior technology. They never realized that humanity's true weapon wasn't hidden in bunkers or orbital platforms. It was written in their DNA, waiting for the moment when survival demanded transcendence. That moment had come, and the galaxy would never be the same.